and countless ways. Here, God has proved how faithful he has been in your life. Just remember the last thing you went through. Remember the last situation that you thought he wasn't going to pull you out. Remember how long you had to wait, and then all of a sudden he stepped in right in the nick of time. Why is God still not great as he was the last time he delivered you? Why is God still not great enough, even though you suffering and you going through, that God isn't greater than the last thing you went through? I beg to differ. I believe that you have less faith on who you hang around with. You look at how long God takes to bless somebody else, and then you start adopting the time that God is waiting to do them and to do you, and you are saying that God isn't going to come through. So he's saying, you doubting my word. Touch your neighbor. I'm not doubting his word no more. I'm done with that. I'm done with faking church. I'm done with faking religion. I'm done with that. I'm going to be real about that. I believe he can do it. I don't. Make up your mind. Ask your neighbor. You got to make up your mind whether you're going to believe him or not. Because every time you don't believe him, you don't believe the word of God. Touch your neighbor. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Here, when we look at this, God is seeing and showing. Moreover, he has proven his love. Malachi goes even further to spell out the devastation and the results of doubting God. Oh, wait, you mean it's results and consequences when I doubt God? Tap like the neighbor said, let me tell you about what you have gone through and are going through now. What do you mean? That the prophet described how quickly doubt seeps out of control. That all of a sudden you start doubting in one area, and all of a sudden it's in another area, and now it's so overwhelming to you that now I don't come to church. I don't want to do nothing with God. I don't believe God gonna save my marriage. I don't believe God gonna save my wife, my child. I don't believe they gonna get off of drugs. I don't believe I'm gonna get out of this dead situation. I don't believe I'm gonna get out the ghetto. I don't believe I'm gonna get a house. I don't believe I'm gonna get a car. I don't believe I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna always be like I am. Here, he said that when it seeps in, that it doesn't just take over the primary area. It's like a plague. It starts going all over the things that you used to be assured of. Now you got doubt there. Here, we look at this. What are you trying to say? When it does, it leads to disobedience. Disobedience brings dishonor to God's holy name. This is critical. This is the message of this passages about us. Change and charge. Change your way so you can be charged for being obedient. Here, when we look at this, the two things that I want to deal with, doubting God's love and dishonoring God's name. The two things that help me to frame up this work a little bit better is charge number one is doubting God's love, dealing with chapter 1 of Malachi through 1 through 5. The second thing is charge 2, dishonoring God's name, and chapter 1 verse 6 through 20 through chapter 2 verse 9. So what do you mean, preacher? Help me to better understand this. Well, I'm glad you asked. Look at this. God's first charge. I want to deal with that charge number 1. God's first charge against his people is tragic. They have begun to doubt God's great love for them. Thus, here at the very beginning, the Lord addresses his people directly and reminded them of his fervent love. God will always remind you how much he in love with you. No matter what you're going through, your situation might not change. The things might not go away. But remember this, in the midst of what you're going through, God got to go in your situation and give you a great old hug of the love of a father. Touch your neighbor and say, have he hugged you yet? Have he hugged you in your sorrow? Has he hugged you in your disappointment? Has he hugged you in your doubt and your envy, your jealousy? Oh my God, has he hugged you? Hug me, Lord. Here, when we look at this, God is saying that this is very important for us to understand that he began to doubt God's great love for them. Thus, begins. The Lord addresses his people directly. You must understand that he addresses them directly. I have loved you. Now God is talking to his people. He's letting you know, I love you. Now wait a minute, but God, I'm suffering and I'm going through. I love you. But I don't believe you. I love you. Why? Because God always has to reconfirm that he loves you. So you don't think God is just a punishing God, but a loving God. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up, wait a minute. People think God just sit around and micromanage your thoughts and micromanage the way you deal with things, and then he spank you every time you go out of line. That's not a loving God. But what God does is take your mistakes and turn it around into good. What he does is he teaches you how to walk right, teaches you how to talk right, teaches you how to love him back. High five your neighbor and say, I got to learn how to love God. Yeah, this is very important. That the words were actually a rebuke. When he said, I love you, he was rebuking them. Why was he rebuking them? For the people were doubting God's love. Anytime you do not believe his word, you have just doubted his love. Wait a minute, you saying, preacher, that all the time I didn't know if he was going to make a way out of no way, and God said that was dishonoring his name. That means that you doubt my love for you, because it's the love that delivered. It was the love that delivered deliverance. It was the love that gave you forgiveness. Here, at the same time, the word reassured the people how deeply he loves them. In truth, he loved them with a jealousy and all-consuming love. Can you just help me go there? Somebody pull me up Exodus chapter 34 verse 14. Let's prove it. Exodus chapter 34 verse 14. Whoever got it, will you please read?
For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God.
Whoa! Now, can you go right on to Deuteronomy? Let's back it up. Chapter 4, verse 20.